Well, I think we probably quadrupled this year's consumer electronics home theater excitement with Sony's latest announcements. Let's all hold hands and look at pretty internet pictures together. First up, the Sony Bravia Theater Quad. That's not how English normally works, but we're gonna roll with it. The model number is HTA9M2, which may sound faintly familiar. It's priced at the derriere constricting, come on dude, really, $2,500 price point that miraculously makes the full Sonos Arc setup and Era 300s and bass sound like a real steal. I was curious which direction Sony was going to go with this to make the already highly lauded A9 more compelling. Perhaps add a fifth unit, GigaChad each of the 4 speakers, add another input. At first glance at least, it seems they didn't really do any of those things and instead leaned hard into living room core, with 4 gray yet respectfully dressed rectangles specifically crafted to get lady thumbs pointed in the upward direction. They come with a stand that can also be used for mounting, though whatever is happening back here looks unfortunate. To help ground the physicality of these things, I'll point out they are actually smaller and lighter than the Samsung Music Frame, which, in all fairness, is bigger and more substantial than you're probably imagining. With the quads being smaller in the X and Y direction, a fraction of an inch deeper, but less than 60% of the weight of a frame. I suspect the form factor will be polarizing as they look too narrow to output high-quality sound, yet they did squeeze in one more driver in each speaker to perhaps combat what others have described as
add a woofer to each speaker to make the sound a little less wispy.
A somewhat wispy sound. So on the front, behind the LL Bean sweater, there is a dedicated low and mid woofer along with a tweeter. This is an upgrade from a woofer-tweeter pair in the original A9s. And yes, there is still an upward firing driver, though it's far less obvious in the quad's design. You know, it was kind of given a little workspace off to the side there. As you might expect, Sony was anticipating your pathetic, "it's too slim to sound good" whining. Their apologetic slapbacks go something like, "These quad speakers go beyond nifty DSP techniques and are fortified with uniquely structured X-balanced drivers and a 3-way speaker configuration designed to be super duper awesome in a housing that is too small to be a good speaker." I believe Sony has the engineering chops to make this form factor sound better than competitors, but is it $1,000 better or even $1 better than the OG A9? I imagine that will be a point of significant discussion. My instinct is that these are actually going to sound pretty dang slick, get generally positive reviews, and will tempt a bunch of stylish people, exclusively males, to spend more money than they wanted to. Since we're already spending, let's go ahead and consider the $600 to $700 SA-SW5 subwoofer non-optional for a system like this, pushing it into 3,000 pointer land. All right, other advertised enhancements. A big one, improved wireless stability that was an issue at least in early firmware versions of the original A9. Sony is claiming that the quad has 2.5x the radio power and has an all-new switchable dual antenna frequency hopping system to, well, avoid that crappy feeling when a wheel flies off your sound system at full speed. Also, the quad adds Voice Zoom 3 support, which is an AI voice adjuster that keeps dialogue at what Sony engineers have deemed an optimal level. One of my rivals, who also has over 29,000 subs, was randomly chosen to fly out somewhere and listen to the quad. He said the feature works really well. This is unfortunate because my rivals are always wrong. My sense is that while you don't need the TV to make any sound for this to work, you do need a relatively new higher tier Bravia TV to process the audio. The AI brain lives in the TV, not the quad. Though the quad can receive the signal and render enhanced dialogue without the TV acting as a center channel. Sony added IMAX enhanced support to the quad, which means it can pass the specialized video aspect ratio and play the accompanying DTS audio format. In a step back, it seems Sony and Google got a little chilly on this particular product as Chromecast and other Google integrations are not showing up in the specs. But neither is so perhaps they're saving a bit of cost on the connectivity licensing. AirPlay 2, Bluetooth with LDAC, high res, and Spotify Connect seem to be your wireless streaming options. Otherwise, you're getting a very similar system that touts the same message as the A9 original, which is something like unusually good spatial audio processing and sound performance with a particularly high tolerance for speaker placement and room shape. Using the same technology, such as 360 spatial sound mapping that does the phantom speaker bubble business, and sound field optimization, a room tuning feature that overcomes oddities in room shape and speaker placement, so you continue to get the bubble business. With this kind of system, you really want to use that tuning feature. Otherwise, the whole thing sounds less expensive. Not really sure if there were any superficial changes made to the control box. A slightly bigger display would be nice, but I can say for sure you are still stuck with a single HDMI input, which, if you're going to complicate the system by adding an input, add at least two to support something like a gaming console and Apple TV. As you might expect, the HDMI input is fully 2.1 compatible, as with the original A9, with 4K 120, 8K 60, variable refresh rate, and auto low latency mode. In addition, you get Dolby Vision support, but HDR10 and 10 Plus were left out again. For music, you still have 360 Reality Audio, a spatially oriented Dolby Atmos competitor in the music realm. Tidal and Amazon Music would be the most notable streamers supporting that format. The Quad, as with the original A9, supports acoustic center sync, where supported Bravia TVs can act as an advanced center channel that will adjust dialogue to make it sound like it's coming directly from characters on the screen. Though apparently this feature will not be available until a spring firmware update. My take is the bigger the TV, the better if you're into this feature. A center sync connection requires a physical standard 3.5mm male-to-male aux cable between the control box and TV. One is included in the box. Okay, so what about the other announced products? Bars are boring, so just gonna talk about the You Wear the TV thing. Haha, gotcha. I'm actually gonna talk about that later. Anyway, gonna talk more about an Anker speakerphone you all ignored that's actually pretty cool. I'm on fire. Okay. I'm concluding with a rehash of my Exter wallet. As a person with nothing in here but a winner's mindset, I'm too much. Okay. Weight loss strategies. So what is up with the Bravia Theater Bar 9, otherwise known as the HTA 9000? Well, it's a beefed up flagship soundbar that is designed to unceremoniously rip the flagship pin from the HTA 7000 and then throw it off a cliff. It's a next-gen standalone Apex bar, which many years ago used to be priced at $700. Then they went to $900 to $1,000. And now they think it's okay to be $1,400. So compared to the HDA 7000, it has 2 more drivers. 4 more if you don't count the 2 subwoofers. In the front, you have 4 well-spaced woofers and 5 tweeters, 3 traditional and 2 of the beamy variety, meant to diffuse the sound horizontally. We have an interesting situation here with a traditional and beam tweeter sitting right next to each other. I haven't seen that before. Sony's calling this pairing a new 2-way speaker system that supports surround sound and wider sound. I don't get why these particular speakers facing forward are associated with these particular duties. Big deal, the 9000 added woofers on the end, which is an acknowledgement that beam tweeters are not a replacement for side-firing woofers. It seems likely that these 2 end speakers gave Sony enough confidence to make this bar 360 sound mapping compatible all by itself without requiring the fancy RS5 surrounds. As with the 7000, there is an upward firing woofer on each side, but with the 9000, they added an upward firing passive radiator on each side, I suppose fulfilling the role of the 2 subwoofers in the 7000. Sony again talks about DSP not being enough to make a good system. You gotta have well-designed drivers too. That's true, but you also need to have drivers, which their systems have been particularly short on. Worst violator, the 7.1.2 3-driver HT G700. Anyway, it seems they've watched all my videos where I complain about their over-reliance on DSP techniques with skimpy driver counts, and they did exactly what I told them to do, which makes total sense. I did notice one sly but a total dick move. They reduced the number of HDMI inputs from 2 to 1. They fostered some good vibes, but that single input, at least with my projector setup, means I need to get up, walk, and physically switch out my Apple TV and Blu-ray player. This is going to sound prideful, but I'm too good to do that. I'm too important. I've bought too many soundbars for this. Anybody know a good therapist? Otherwise, it has an identical feature set as the Theater Quad, even the single input. As with the HT-A7000, your best sub and surround option is the SA-SW5 and SA-RS5 respectively. I'm not sure when we're going to see a refresh. Okay, can anyone explain why this image is happening? The one that's going to sell all the things. Did I do something wrong? As if they threw up inside my eyes. Okay, the Bravia Theater Bar 8 or HT-A8000 priced at a cool $1,000. There is an argument from an armchair on whether the 8000 is better than the 7000. What I know for sure is that this is the Bar 9 minus the beam tweeters and the passive radiators and is quite a bit narrower by 8 inches, which is about a 16% reduction in width. Beam tweeters take up space and about a 2-pound difference, which comes out to about a 14% reduction in weight. All right, I'm going all the way with this. The product name that was just out there floating in the ether, ready to be picked like a perfectly ripe pear. The Bravia Theater Wearable TV speaker. It's 300 Washingtons, and like the Bar 8 and 9, it's not even up for pre-order. This neckable private but not really private at all shoulder phones is not a new concept. Sony already has one that arguably looks more premium with very similar features for the same price. So this is Sony's second attempt to bring its home theater spatial audio chops to a personal wearable that's not traditional headphones. A compatible Bravia TV is required to get the 360 spatial sound, which enables Dolby Atmos playback. Sony calls out the dialogue clarity, which suggests it's trying to target those that may have consistent struggles on that front, and that this neckband would be more open and social than TV headphones. 2 TV speakers you wear can pair, which looks really silly because there is a 0% chance my wife would ever wear this thing, and when there are 2 people, it's like get a soundbar and stop being alone together. And unlike headphones, isn't there horrendous sound interference from the other person's speaker? You can wear this thing and have the TV sound going at the same time. Did I sell ya? The Wearable can be connected via wire for lower latency during gaming. And obviously it's not limited to a Bravia TV connection. It can enhance other devices like your phone via Bluetooth and can be used as a fellow traveling speakerphone that supports multi-point pairing for your work needs. The driver array is a single woofer on each side and it's an X-balanced speaker unit, if that helps. The NS7 is also an X-balanced speaker unit and has passive radiators. Just saying. It does kind of look like the Wearable has a more stable form factor than the NS7, which reminds me a little more of my Bose Soundwear, which always went willy-wampus on me, rotating nearly 90 degrees, which always reminded me that I made a solid purchase. I don't really see this product making sense for many folks other than the wearable device curious and this very specific person, who is a minimalist who lives alone in an apartment with thin walls, who can't take advantage of a nice soundbar because he'll get beat up by neighbors, and who works from home and takes lots of phone calls and doesn't really like to wear headphones all day. Did this message find you? Anyway, gonna wrap this up. Glad I could make another super awesome video just for you. Please help me reach my 40,000 sub goal by 2025 so I can afford 2 Bravia Theater Wearable TV speakers. Also, so you don't miss my reviews on some of this stuff. Thanks for watching. Catch you on the next one.